Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is Paddock Live. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Joe Smith. We're going to be getting into some nice, juicy Manchester United stories. We've heard from the manager, Ruben Amorim. He's been giving us a few injury updates. Also, speaking a little bit about this fella, Viktor Gyokeres, obviously he's former striker at Sporting, been linked with the move to Manchester United. Someone's saying, a couple of journalists saying that could still be happening.
Yeah.
Ruben Amorim's been responding to that. Plus, we'll be talking about some potential outgoings as well, and all the usual suspects in some of the incomings. So make sure, if you're not doing so already, you are hitting like, share, and subscribe, and do get involved in the chat and the comments.
Loads to talk about.
Loads.
What a game, by the way.
Yeah, we've just been watching Barca and Inter.
That's the sort of game United should be involved in, isn't it?
Isn't it mad?
Proper Champions League, back and forth, just both of them, double bastard, just absolutely going for it. I loved it.
I did, and it's mad because me and you were watching it. We were talking about, like, when was it, 2.5 years ago, whenever it was, or maybe 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Was it we beat Barcelona in Europe? Yeah. And, like, you look at the way they've kicked on from then and what's happened with us. It is crazy, isn't it?
It is
and
mad.
They've done it a lot based around the youth, and, you know, Lamine Yamal tonight was just unreal, wasn't it?
It helps when you get someone like that coming through at 17, doesn't it?
Well, maybe we've probably got a load of him.
Yeah,
I won't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just, in a few years, that'll be us. Probably next year.
Easy.
Right, what's the first one?
Let's start with Garnacho. What we got? Producer Ben on the puns. Oh, wow. Look at this. Napoli and Ghana might leave.
Napoleon Dynamite. Is that what it is?
Napoleon Ghana might
Napoleon Garnacho.
leave.
So this is why we're 10 minutes late going live tonight. Innit? I did wonder.
This.
It's because we've spent
Photoshop right here.
10 minutes turning Alejandro Garnacho into Napoleon Dynamite.
Because look at it as well, it's a really good Photoshop.
It is.
And that's how you know it's taken at least
It's taken ages, hasn't it?
It's taken ages, that.
Because Ben's on his own tonight. I know he's got help with him with Chris and David, but he's doing a lot of graphics, so you know he's been like.
But you know what? Let's put that to one
dedicated to
side.
that.
Napoleon Dynamite, I don't hate it. I actually quite like it.
You love that film
because I
as
love
well.
the film
You do
Napoleon
love the
Dynamite.
film.
It's one of my favourite sort of films growing up. Love that. Napoli and Ghana might leave. Doesn't really make sense as a sentence, but I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Let's get into it. The Argentine winger was the subject of interest in January from Napoli and Chelsea, but ended up staying at United. This is according to Goal.com. Cristiano Abruzzese via Area Napoli claims Napoli have made the 20-year-old their number one target to replace Kvaratskhelia, who joined PSG at the turn of the year. The report adds that with United not being in a particularly strong position when it comes to PSR, the Red Devils may have to sell players in order to fund their war chest this summer. And due to Garnacho being an academy product, meaning he will go down as pure profit on the balance sheet, United may be open to moving him on at the end of the season, with his asking price said to be around 50 million euros. Incidentally, a move to Napoli may be more appealing if Conte's men win Serie A this season, with his team currently top of the league. Yeah, I saw that. I think they've won the last 4 games in a row. I think they're currently 4 points clear at the top of the league, or they were when I checked a couple of days ago. The move does seem a little bit more appealing, doesn't it, for both Man United and for Garnacho, especially if we get Cunha done early. I know we haven't said that we need to sell to raise funds, but I just think United are clearly willing to sell Garnacho, as much as it pains me, and I do think there's a player there, and potentially a very good player. You look at what Rafinha's done at Barcelona this season. The guy at Leeds and the guy at Barcelona, they're like 2 different people.
Yeah.
And you know, when I've watched Rafinha, he doesn't stun and he doesn't draw the eye quite the way Yamal does, but who does? But he's got 52 goals and assists this season, Rafinha.
Mental, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, that the striker at Leeds, or the winger at Leeds, was a good, effective player. I think he got 12, 13 goals a season, something like that. And he's just gone to another level, and I could see Garnacho doing the same, and I think that's the worry that everyone has with him, isn't it? In 2 years' time, he's got 25 goals, 15 assists, and you think that's exactly who United could do with.
Yeah, I mean, I've no doubt if he does go to Napoli, he'll smash it. I mean, me and you just watched the Champions League semi-final with like Matteo Darmian and Henrik Mkhitaryan smashing it for Inter, doing very well. Like, the standards in the Premier League are so high. Garnacho, for me, he's still got, like, I agree with what you said. I think he's still got another level to go. Will he quite hit the heights we hoped he would do when he first burst onto the scene? I don't know. But if it was up to me, we'd keep Garnacho. It does feel like there's a little bit in there. It feels like there's some determination on Napoli's front to get him.
Yeah.
They obviously wanted him in the summer, I think in January. And it feels as though United wouldn't be completely against that move, even though we've not had anything that sort of says they're up for it. There was rumours, I think the closest we got to it was there was reports that Garnacho was unhappy with the fact United were willing to sell him, if any of that makes sense. So, yeah, it does feel like there's a little bit of fire to this smoke. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let us know what you think about Garnacho. Let us know what you think about the pun, the Photoshop, everything about that. Patrick Granger says, who wins a fight between a gorilla and 100 Stehausens? The question should be, who wins a fight between a Stephen Howson and 100 gorillas?
Gorilla's easy. Just absolutely smash his face in. One of them could.
Well, would they? Not if they all fight each other and kill each other, because they're stupid.
Because Steve's done something wicked and devilish, and he's got them to turn on each other.
Because Steve got his tactics bored out, and they just all decided to commit suicide. Rather than having to listen to the tactics against the low block. Right. Steve M says, Garner has been better the last few games. Wayne Davis.
So hot. Can we get the aircon a bit roasted?
We've got to keep Garnacho. He's the other player we have that can drive the ball forward. Even if Cunha keeps him on the bench, he'd be great as an option off the bench.
You can't keep a 40 million quid profit on the bench. That's the problem. That's what football is now. I agree with you, but you can keep a Mason Mount on the bench, you can keep a Xerxes on the bench, and Ahmad on the bench, someone that even if you sell them, you're breaking even. This guy right now is 40 million quid profit. We'd have to sell Mason Mount for 100 million quid to get that. Like, it's too good of an opportunity to let his value deteriorate on the bench. That's what United will be thinking.
I feel like 10s now are a bit like strikers were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think there's an element of rotation as well there. Because you don't rotate strikers anymore like you used to. People going about York and Cole and Sheringham, Solskjaer. If you had 4 strikers in United, 3 of them would be fucking fuming.
Yeah,
because they'd be getting barely any games because you have 1 striker. And most clubs are the same, to be frank. But I think with 10s, you can rotate them a bit. So there might be something there, especially when you look at all the question marks over all our number 10s. Like Ahmad, who I adore, might be a wing-back, has had injury problems this season, has yet to complete a full season as a Manchester United player. Kobe Mainoo, I love him. Do we know if he's going to be a 10, a 6 or an 8 for Manchester United? Again, he's had injuries this season, so it's not like he's played every week. Mason Mount has been injured loads since he's been at Manchester United. So it does feel like there's options there, or there's scope there to have 3 number 10s who are rotated or coming, maybe even 4, because you've got 2 positions, you've got 2 that might be injured or out of form, whatever, and you can keep everyone happy, especially if, fingers crossed, we do get Champions League football. We'll wait and see anyway.
Yes.
Seems like a bit of a mixed bag. It does feel like there's a lot of people that are ready to get rid of Garnacho and moving on, but there's some who appreciate what he does bring to the game. And like you said earlier, Joe, the big thing with Garnacho is a bit of FOMO, isn't it? It's like, we could be sat here in a year looking at a 21 or a couple of years, 22-year-old who's putting up those numbers you mentioned, like 40 goal involvements in a season, thinking, why the fuck did we sell him for 40 million quid? That was so dumb.
You look at McTominay now for Napoli. He's doing, like, for them what fucking Gundogan used to do for Man City. Do you know where in those tricky spells toward the end of the season, he's just scoring every game at the minute. Yeah. He got 2 the other night. He got 1 a couple of games before that as well. Yeah, he's just absolutely flourishing. And you could easily see the same thing with Garnacho. Again, though, like you mentioned, the counter to your point about Darmian and Mkhitaryan, or not the counter, but to follow on from that, is he could go there, get 30 goal involvements, and still not be good enough for Man United.
Yeah, no, that's true.
It's mad because, I saw Marcus Thuram, and every time I see him, and tonight was another example of it, you think he gets goals for him, and he's one of their top scorers, and he's a good player, but you watch him, you think, he can't really get away from a man particularly. He's not a great dribbler. He's a little bit clunky on the turn. And I think he's a very good player. But if he came to Man United, I don't think he would look like a top player. There's a lot of people who are in other leagues, in other competitions, playing in other systems, that it just works for them. But it doesn't mean that put that player in at Man United and they're the exact same player with the exact same output. I just don't think that's always the case. So, it's going to be one way.
Even last season, do you remember? I think it was after the Brentford game where Ten Hag sort of went, right, stick McTominay in the 10. Yeah. Let's try and get the ball to him. Let's try and get him involved more. It might have been after, I think there's a Brentford game where he got the 2, then if Forest, I think he scored as well. And it was like, look, let's try and make this work with him. And he went not terrible, like 8 games on the spin without a goal or an assist.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, this isn't really. I think it might be Chelsea was another game where he scored, but there was like I think 8 or 9 games on the spin where he didn't get a goal or assist. And then you're questioning what he's actually bringing to the team. Yeah. Goes to Napoli, he's playing in that position again, and he's just consistently smashing it. Well, the levels at United or levels in the Premier League are so higher. And also, it's different systems, different teams. It's just not quite the same, is it?
And less pressure, which is
you're right. He's obviously loving life in Edmonton, and we do wish him well.
Right, what we got next?
Move on.
Marks Alona. I don't mind that.
I like that. Solid. That.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it is. It's functional.
And also, it sort of hints that Rashford might be a bit of a loner at the moment. He's by himself. He's not got the club around him. I think there's a second sort of meaning to that as well. I like that.
Yeah, it's really good. That.
Really good. That. Well done.
Yeah.
Impressive. More of that. Barcelona are reportedly willing to sign Marcus Rashford during the summer window. This is being reported by the MEN. Man United have not been given the clear green light to sell him since leaving. The 27-year-old has partially rediscovered his form at Aston Villa, and this has led clubs to start circling around the forward. It's always been outlined that Villa would need to qualify for next season's Champions League if they were to lure Rashford to the West Midlands. Currently, this seems unlikely, so the £40 million agreed option to buy might not be activated by Unai Emery's side this summer. Interestingly, I don't feel like... So it says, outlined that Villa would need to qualify, therefore they won't try and get him. Surely it would be... Therefore, he won't go there.
Yeah,
or maybe they're going, actually, we won't even do it because
there might be permutations, like they might not be able to get the money, and also he might be reluctant.
Yeah, the iPaper reported it understands that Barca would be willing to sign Rashford and, in turn, make his dream come true. The La Liga giants would want to negotiate on the transfer fee there. Well, of course they would. Well, on what planet would they not negotiate on the transfer fee? No,
I know they've got options, Barcelona, obviously, but I could see if that transfer happened, him doing more there.
Yeah, me
I
too.
could. I mean, you always know. There's always an element with Marcus Rashford. You don't quite know which Marcus Rashford you're going to get.
Yeah.
But if you got an enthused Marcus Rashford who's up for it, who realises, look, this is my big opportunity. This is the move I've wanted, playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. After 2 seasons where it's not been great for him, goes there, sort of gets going, then there's every chance he could get plenty of goals and assists.
Yeah, I think he could do really well for
Barcelona.
Barcelona. I almost feel like this must be wrong. I was saying to you before, they said on BT earlier, or TNT, whatever, that Barcelona, I think it was before tonight, had scored 157 goals in all competitions. That is, if that is right, and I didn't hear it wrong and they didn't get it wrong, that's absolutely astonishing. In my head, 100 goals, I know that's league goals is like the record, but in my head, if you hit 100 goals in a season in all competitions as a club, you're scoring a fair few goals.
Yeah.
But to do 50% more than that again, that's in a team that is capable of producing 157 goals. If that was right, and I didn't mishear that, I think Marcus Rashford would be a fantastic.
They've got 89 in the league
puzzle
alone, so they're on for 100 goals in the league. Probably. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of questions whether they actually, it's true they want him. I think
they definitely did want him a few years ago, didn't they?
So, he's, obviously he's a little bit older now. His star's probably not shining as brightly. We'll see. Yeah. I mean, I said this on my news the other day, I think he'll end up moving somewhere. Whether it's he stays at Villa, whether he goes abroad, whether someone else in the Premier League comes in for him, I'm not sure. I think he's done enough to make people interested in Marcus Rashford again, to make teams interested. I don't think he's been unbelievable, but I think getting back into the England squad, getting some goals and assists on a relatively consistent basis, the performance in that second half against PSG, there's enough there where I think someone would have him.
I don't think any of the other attackers for Aston Villa were capable of doing that. The movement, the dribbling, that assist that he got, just how dangerous he was. You watch games, and even like the games tonight, there aren't tons of players capable of putting in that kind of performance as regular as he does. You can list, no end of performances like that from Marcus Rashford, where in big games he's just terrorising defences. He's done it against City, he's done it against Liverpool, he's done it against Chelsea.
His big game record is very good. He's very good,
and that is something that is worth more than just I'm not sure about him because of this, that, and the other. That's worth a lot. So, get him in Barcelona tonight. It wouldn't shock you for him to score in a
Yeah.
El Clasico, would it? You wouldn't be going, fucking Rashford stepped up. He scored against City all the time. He scored against Chelsea.
Even that
last
season, he scored against the Scousers, didn't he, in the 4-3?
Yeah.
Scored against City.
Goes under the radar, that one in the FA Cup.
Yeah,
because it was so Ahmad.
Yeah,
but like
he got the equaliser, didn't he?
Yeah.
He scored against City, like you say. I think he scored against, was it Arsenal? I think he got a goal against.
Yeah.
I know it's not exactly the top anymore, Spurs as well. There was a few goals there against teams that were near the top end of the table. Lots of people doubting that move will happen. Fair enough. Dylan Endo disagrees. He says Rashford's going to go to Barca and look elite. Solomon says it's baffling how people rate Rashford so highly. Still, I think if you look at his overall record, it's quite high. Yeah. And the fact he's gone to a club like Villa, Unai Emery obviously rates him, has had quite a lot of games. I think he's had a lot more assists than he's had goals. I think he's like, is it something like 8 assists or something like 10 that, assists and 4 goals. He's not had that many goals, but he's certainly on certain games, including that PSG game I mentioned earlier, looked apart. Obviously, I know people go, oh, it was a penalty, but he did score against City. So the other day, I think there's still enough. I think there's still enough there for someone to come in for him. I do. He might be. We'll see who's right in the summer. If everyone doesn't, he'll be back at United. Let's move on.
Yeah, what we got? Delighted to see Ahmad recovery.
Perfect.
Just straight down the line. Tick, 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 tick. No notes. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of them, innit? Delighted to see Ahmad recovery. Can't
just what you want.
With that. Yeah, perfect. You can see them there, just appearing on stars in their eyes, which is nice to see. Ahmad and Matthias de Ligt took part in Manchester United training ahead of the clash with Athletic Bilbao. This is an interesting one for me. It comes from the MEN, but it's not a rumour or a report. It just happened. Ahmad picked up an ankle injury in training in February, and Amorim feared that he could be ruled out for the rest of the season. But the winger has made substantial progress in his recovery. The 22-year-old's rehabilitation has gone well, and he could be available to face Bilbao on Thursday night. De Ligt could also be involved for the first time since he picked up an ankle injury in the defeat to Nottingham Forest on the 1st of April. Ahmad and De Ligt are not fit to start, but will be in the squad against Athletic Club tomorrow night. Ruben Amorim confirms. Massive news, great stuff. 2 of our better players, our most informed attacker when he got injured. Ahmad, I know Bruno stepped it up massively since then. And De Ligt, for me, well, I think he's our most accomplished centre-back in terms of medals. He's got that experience of winning big trophies, and you need that in these sorts of games. Does it not feel a bit quick? Like, have they been training behind the scenes in secret, or are they just back in group training and they're in the squad already tomorrow? What do you think about that?
I thought, I know this is going to sound proper stupid and ridiculous, but I'll say it anyway. I thought if Ahmad was running around the other day, with
your kids,
yeah, he's got to be at least training. He can't be that far away from being, because you wouldn't do that if you were at risk of being injured. I know it's only sort of 10-year-olds running around with him, but he was still kicking a ball and tackling people and getting involved and taking part in a game. And you thought you've got to be at some level of, because I think Delo was originally meant to do it and pulled out because he had an injury. There was someone else, I can't remember who else, who had a bit of a knock. Garnacho. So it was, Garnacho, I think they said that he's got a little tweak or something where they were like, look, we're not going to risk it. So then for them not to risk players that were touch and go or injured, but then for him to come down and take part, you think he must be like on the road to recovery to some degree, because the club aren't surely that mental. I know Ahmad did say he was ready, even though they said they didn't expect him to play. So we thought he can't be that far away. I am surprised that it's the first leg. I thought it'd be the second.
Yeah.
I thought he'd be involved in the second leg. I thought, forget the Brentford game, and I didn't think the first leg he'd be involved in. Fantastic he is. Take your time with him. Yeah. De Ligt, missed him so much. This is one thing, I was thinking about this morning, one thing that really worries me with Ruben Amorim, and it could end up doing for him if his bad luck continues, it's the bad luck he's had with injuries. He's had terrible luck with injuries, and it's not his fault. I don't think you can point a finger at him and go, it's him running him into the ground. It's not, is it? Like, loses Martinez when he's on form. Aiden Heaven comes in, looks the part, loses him after what? A game against Fulham, a game against Sociedad, and half a game against Leicester, I think. Yeah. And then he's out for weeks, and we don't know when he's going to be back. Ahmed, as you just mentioned, is flying, loses him for a good few months. Mainu did really well in the Manchester derby at the Etihad, plays a few more games, I think. Then he's out for months.
Yeah.
I mean,
Xerxes just finding his form.
Just finding his form, goes on the best run he's had since he's been here, gets injured whilst doing that run. Like, this manager's had, Delo, ever present, now he's out potentially to the end of the season. He's had a lot of bad luck with injuries, Ruben Amorim. And sometimes that's just, people hate the word luck in football. Sometimes that does happen.
Yeah.
And you feel like, if Martinez was fit all season, if Ahmed had been fit all season, if De Ligt had been fit all season, if Mainu had been fit all season, he'd have had a fighting chance, and a good chance we could be in the top half of the table now. Maybe people aren't having as many doubts or question marks as, I don't mean everyone, but around this manager that they've got. He's just been a bit unlucky, and I hope it gets better for him next season, because I think when everyone's fit, we buy one or two players, we've got a decent team.
Yeah, we do.
It's just when you get those injuries, and then you get injuries to the players who are replacing the injured players, which is what we've had, you're in all sorts of trouble, aren't you? And he's had a bit of, he's just had a tough time of it with injuries, Ruben Amorim.
And also, we didn't even mention, but Luke Shaw's been out all season until 2 weeks ago, or last week.
And let's not forget, if Luke Shaw's fit, he starts.
Yeah, he does.
He's not on the bench for United if he's fully fit. He's just never fully fit. Yeah. So people just forget that or ignore it or whatever. So I do hope it gets a bit better for Ruben Amorim. Also, Wayne Davies says if we had no injuries, we'd be at least 12.
Another point on this is you're allowed more subs in Europe. So there is a chance that they aren't particularly fit, but because you can have, I think it's like 9 or 11 or something subs in Europe, you might as well take them, because if we're completely desperate and there's 5 minutes to go, maybe you stick Ahmad on for 5 minutes, and if not, you're not taking up a substitute slot, because you can have so many more. So maybe that explains it a little bit as well.
That's good stuff. I do too much, says 4 goals. I think he's talking about Rashford still. 3 pens, 2 against Preston, Barcelona, 8. He's not having it. Now Sleeman. So still think wrong decision. So sack Ten Hag, but if Ineos don't meddle too much, then Amorim can get it right. P.S. DAZN have picked up Joe's as the fight. So that's going to be on the boxing channel.
Have they? DAZN have got it?
Yeah.
How do they get they're paying $1 billion for it like they are for the Club World Cup. So bring that up yesterday. Right, let's move on to our next story then. Antony. Brazilch paid up front.
Very good.
Don't hate it at all.
No, very good that.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. Real Betis are now facing a battle to sign Antony permanently, according to the Mirror. Real Betis may be unable to sign Manchester United star Antony permanently this summer, as a new rule means they can no longer spread transfer fees over several years. Interesting. Betis could struggle to stump up such cash, as the rule allowing clubs to split cost, a process they would have looked at to secure Antony, has now been changed by La Liga president Javier Tebas. This is a bid to align with UEFA's rules that limit the instalment payments to a maximum of 5 seasons for clubs that do not exceed their limits. The impact of the Brazilian winger has been spectacular, bagging 5 goals and 4 assists in 17 games, as they now sit 6th in the table and are in the Europa Conference semi-finals. I mentioned this earlier, but I think only Barcelona have got more points than Betis since Antony arrived in the whole of La Liga. And obviously it's not all up to him, but he has been a big part of that turnaround that Betis have seen. We saw this in the Premier League, didn't we, a couple of seasons ago, when Chelsea were dishing out 7, 8 and 9 year contracts and spreading out the payments across the entire length of the contract. I think now that is banned and reduced down to a maximum of 5 as it is across other places. So La Liga seem to be sort of catching up with other countries there. But surely 5 years to spread fucking 25 million quid isn't, I know 5 million quid a year is a lot, but you're playing like European football, you're still getting good money. Surely they could afford that. 20, you know what I mean? And maybe, let's say, have him on loan for another year, but with an obligation to buy, so you can pay a loan fee and take it off the overall fee. You can actually spread it over 6 years then. Do you know what I mean? Like, surely there's a way we can find. We're not going to want 50 million quid from here, are we? Come on. This has to be doable.
It's just a ridiculous transfer, wasn't it? On all fronts.
The maddest of the
mad. Everyone has suffered with this transfer other than Ajax. Like, United have suffered because you massively overspent on a player who had a decent first season in the most part, although you'd have a big chunk of it where he wasn't as involved as he should have been in terms of goals and assists. And then it all just went west in it, or went south, I should say. The player himself was just sort of stuck with this price tag. It's not his fault. But then people judging him as like an £80 million player when he never was. Then you're struggling to move him on. Then he finally gets a low move. Real Betis want him, but because we've spent so much on him, there is an expectation on getting at least a quarter or a third of that back.
Yeah.
And that leaves Real Betis, who, for whatever reasons, just don't have any dough, in a position where they can't afford it. And it's so annoying because you feel like if we'd have done what we should have done, which is if we were going to get Antony, spend 35 million quid, which is what we decided he was worth, then none of these problems would have been an issue, because he wouldn't have had all that expectation and that pressure, and if it didn't work out, people would have been like, right, it's okay, it's not the end of the world. Erik ten Hag at times probably wouldn't have been forced into playing him when he didn't want to, because it looks a bit odd if you're not playing the player you spent 80 million quid on, but you are playing the player who was on loan at Sunderland or whatever. Yeah. It's just because, well, what's this manager doing? He's obviously clueless. And then he'd have gone to Real Betis if we'd have moved him on, and then we'd have probably gone, you know what, we can take 10 million for him because we'll just take a 25 million quid loss. It's not the end of the world. But now it's like, no, we have to get Summit because we spent 80 million quid on him. It's just been a disastrous transfer, and I hope to God we have learned something from it, and that Ineos are going to do things differently, because, as you said, he's doing really well there. You've seen all the clips, you've seen the goals, you've seen the Player of the Match awards he's been getting. It's just, I'm with you, it does seem a little bit odd that a relatively big club, no disrespect to Real Betis, but they're not nobodies, they're not Altrincham. No. Not that Altrincham are nobodies, but you get my point. Like, I haven't got 25 million quid, and you think, what? Yeah. Is it that tight in their finances? But it is what it is. And
because also, who are they buying then? Surely their squad, and I'm sure they've got a lot of cheap players or older players or whatever, but like 25 million quid, you know, Napoli, and this was pre-championship Napoli, spent, what was it, fucking 80 million euros on Osimhen. Yeah. Like, you know, clubs who don't win big trophies all the time, and I know Napoli have since won a couple of trophies, but people still have a bit of money here and there. Yeah. Yeah, I just think the idea that, you're looking at their record transfers, or...
I know it was many, 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 many years ago, but do you remember when Real Betis signed Danielson, and he was the world's most expensive player?
Really?
Yeah, I remember that when I was a kid. Well, I was in my teens. But I know I'm going back many, many years now. I think it was like the late 90s or something. When was it? Yeah, 1998, they signed him. And he became the most expensive. He was the most expensive player in the world. They signed him for 21.5 million quid.
So
27 years ago.
27 years later, you can't stump up a similar amount for him. When with inflation, that's literally probably 135, 140 million quid in it. If that was the record then, probably 130, 140 million quid that. I know obviously that's a lifetime ago, and things can change massively financially, but like we said, they're in Europe, they're getting some money here and there.
60,000 seat at stadium. They're not nobody.
20 million quid, 25 million, surely.
I'm sure there's a reason behind it that we don't know. Make sure you're hitting that like button, please, people. And Ryan Byrne is asking, is what Amorim said about Gyokeres true?
Well, let's talk about that now. Let's get into it. What we got? Here we go. To the victor go the toils. Thoughts?
The toils.
Instead of spoils.
Yeah, right.
Why
toils?
Why are toils instead of spoils?
We're just not going to pass to him, are we? Like we don't do with any striker we play. So
toils.
It's like the opposite.
So he's going to have to toil if he wants to come to Man United.
Yeah. I get it.
You don't like it, do you?
No, I'm not mad on it. I like the fact Ben explained it to me though.
Yeah, after the explanation, it helps. Yeah. He said he's going to play up for
I like the fact Ben said instead of spoils.
Yeah, to let you know that he didn't just get it wrong. It was.
I didn't know that bit.
It was a play.
Yeah, it's one of those where it does make sense when you explain it.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of toil.
But it's not a smack around the face, is it?
That goes involved in being a striker for Manchester United.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not. It's one of them.
Yeah. Viktor Gyokeres is seemingly back amongst the list of targets for Man United, according to Plettenberg, not even a first name these days. Florian Plettenberg on X. He said, been told that there's still no agreement between United and Gyokeres. He has not given United the green light yet. Ruben Amorim is very keen on him. That's no secret. As previously reported, concrete talks have already taken place. Many other clubs remain in the race. The race for Gyokeres continues. Now, I think he's done something there. I think he has basically said nothing. This was a couple of days ago. I think maybe
yesterday. And it was. We're going to get into this though. We've got an update on this from what the manager said as well.
Yeah, so it's a new tweet. But when you actually look at what he said here, so he said that there's no agreement. United has not been given the green light. So you can almost take that away, like throw that away, ignore that bit, because he's saying that nothing's happened on that front. So that just been that. And then what he's saying is, Ruben Amorim is very keen on him. Concrete talks have already taken place, as previously reported. So what he's actually doing is quoting an old report that talks have taken place and saying, but nothing else has happened since. But he's written it in a way where it seems like there's an update here, something new has happened. But I think what he's actually saying, if you read it, is nothing new's happened. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is slightly frustrating, really, isn't it?
I agree, and I like Florian Plettenberg. I get there's a sort of almost an element of this with all journalists now. It's like giving you that update that isn't really an update, just to say something on a particular player or a transfer or scenario. Do we have what the manager said about the deal?
We don't have a graphic, but we've
got
right,
yeah. So he was asked, I think, Ruben Amorim today about the Gyokeres deal, and he says, Gyokeres deal, I didn't talk to him, but if a player only wants to come to United to play Champions League, then he won't come. Which, sorry, there's a little bit more. He says, we want players who want to represent United, not players who want to play certain competitions. So, I don't know, it's a bit of a weird thing. I don't know, it's a bit of a weird scenario, that, because it feels like we're saying, didn't fancy you anyway, to someone who's told you they've already got married to someone else. But also,
on the other hand, why does he say that? Why does Amorim say that? Because does that mean that Gyokeres has told people he only wants to join the Champions League club?
I don't know.
Has he told Amorim that?
Yeah.
Is that a public thing? I've seen reports of that potentially, but has he said that himself? And if he has, is that Amorim saying it's not happening, or is it basically him, trying to get the word to Gyokeres of like, right, if you want to join, you better, book your ideas up. I can't tell. Is he distancing himself, or is he putting something out there to Viktor Gyokeres? I'm not sure what's going on. We'll have to wait and see, obviously. Yeah, it could be one of many different things happening here.
Because he's very astute with his comments in the media, Ruben Amorim.
Yeah, he is.
I know sometimes he'll say things and then apologise for what he said, or say, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or whatever. But usually he's quite honest and frank about what he wants to say, and also he's very complimentary to almost everyone.
Yeah.
Even players that he's fell out with, like Rashford, he still sort of sung his praises in a bizarre way, even though he was unhappy with him. So it is a bit strange the way that's sort of worded, and I don't know. Like you said there's so many different ways or things that could mean. It's difficult to sort of nail it down. And Wayne Davis, who's been a member of the academy for 51 months, just as I'm about to read his super chat out, my computer crashes, but then it's all right back now, says, Gyokeres is an absolute must-buy for us. I've said it all season, we'll never get another opportunity to sign a striker that good for 65 million quid. The question there, I understand what you're saying, the question is, have we got that opportunity? Will he come to Manchester United?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean...
Let's say he's up for it, we can convince him that actually it's not just about playing in the Champions League, it's about building a legacy at a big, meaningful club. You can go to Arsenal and do all right, but who cares? Whatever. And he wants to come, all that. Is there a way that a bloke who's getting 50 goals a season, not just one-offs, I think he got 50 goals last season as well, or certainly very close. The season before was big numbers. This season it's 53 already. What is the minimum goals he could score for United next season, do you think? Could he come and score 8? I actually don't think that's possible, personally. And that, with injury dependent. You know what I mean? What is the maximum drop-off you could imagine from this guy's goal-scoring record?
The only sort of one that's always the acid test or the litmus test is Torres for me.
Yeah.
Torres is the one. I'm just looking at his numbers there, 'cause I can't remember what it was. But do you remember, Torres at Liverpool was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then, but even he wasn't the sort of numbers you've just mentioned there.
No.
He had 33 in 46 in his first season.
That was the year, wasn't it?
And then next season, 17-18. The following season, 22 in 32. These are all comps, obviously, because you don't play 46 games in the Premier League. Then the next season, 9 in 26, which is why he started his decline. Goes to Chelsea and has 1 in 18.
Yeah, the same season he went in January.
Sorry, yeah. But it was like you were watching a different player. Yeah. And I know Torres, he kind of got a little bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card, didn't he, on that Champions League run?
Yeah.
Because he scored the decisive goal, or the goal that killed the tie in the Nou Camp against Barcelona. But you watched a player who was phenomenal become a bit shit.
Yeah.
And it was like, but even then, those numbers, I know these are in the Premier League, so it's harder to score 24 goals in the Premier League than it is to score 24 goals in Portugal. But the numbers that Gyokeres is putting up are ridiculous.
And even then, he's still got double digits every season at Chelsea and a 22-goal season. Admittedly, that was in 64 games, so the ratio is not great. But he didn't go from being a 50-goal to a 7 goals. He went from 30 to 11 to 20, you know.
It was just when you watched it. But
the drop-off was massive, I admit that.
Right. I remember that for me was one of the most shocking ones
awful,
because he was a player where we used to fear him, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we laughed at him. We were laughing at him. Yeah. The only other one who I think is slightly similar, was a different position, but is a player that went from pretty much a goal a game to, or goal involvement a game to a 1 in 5 player. Again, though, still had his moments with Sancho, but there's other reasons there. So, in terms of 50 goals a season, no, there isn't. These are the best I can find for you.
Yeah.
And they don't marry up to the point you're making as such, because I think it would be the first one ever if he was to go for him, unless someone can get involved in the chat in the comments and remind me of someone who was going from like a goal every single game or a bit better to just not being able to do out.
Yeah.
You know,
like even if he came to United and he got 19 in all competitions.
Yeah.
Like that's a far better investment of 60 million quid than we've had in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you got 20 all comps in 55 appearances, I'd take that for 60 million quid. I genuinely would.
There's a couple there. Philly says Darwin Núñez was a goal machine in Portugal.
But right, so here's another one though. I know he's incredibly infuriating because his finishing is shit, right? I think he got something like 36 goals in all comps for Benfica this season. But he had a season last year for Liverpool. He got like 20 goals and 13 assists. Like, he wasn't bad. We're not seeing the assists on there, obviously, because it's Wikipedia. But even then, he's got 16 and then 14 and then 34 at Benfica in consecutive seasons. And then he got 15 and 18.
And also, he's had that one season at Benfica where he smashed it.
Yeah.
34 goals in 41 games in all competitions.
Brilliant.
So he's not had the ridiculously two good seasons now for Gyokeres, where back-to-back seasons where
he's got 20 goals more than that.
Yeah.
This like great season for Núñez. He's got 20 more than that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not quite the same, is it?
And even then, Núñez has still got middle to high teens.
I fucking hate Liverpool, right? And I'm not particularly fond of Darwin Núñez. But you can kind of forgive someone if they're only getting 5 Premier League goals this season and you win the league.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
He's now, under Slot, he's just completely not favoured. It's not. I'm not even including this season.
There was questions about psychologically Klopp, what went on there, something like he just didn't seem right. I don't really like Darwin Núñez, but it's like the Jack Grealish thing. City paid 100 million quid for Jack Grealish. Was he ever as good as he was at Villa? No, but he won what was it, 2 titles in 4 years, so it's probably like they don't really care that much.
And that reminds me as well, Darwin Núñez didn't cost 60 million euros. He cost 80 with easily achievable, as it was quoted at the time, add-ons up to 100 million. It's like 60% more than this is. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't see a world, and again, maybe the biggest hurdling block, and maybe Amorim suggested it himself, is that he wants to join a club with Champions League football. But I cannot possibly believe that he comes to Man United and doesn't get minimum 14, 15, 16 goals next season, and could feasibly get high 20s, low 30s if we do well in a lot of competitions.
So did Evening, thank you. He said, excellent shirt. I had to look down then.
It's nice that.
To see what I had on, yeah.
It's really good.
A little Maradona piece. Your mate.
Liam
Klein makes a good point. Shevchenko's goals dropped about 50% when he was Chelsea. The thing with Shevchenko, he got leggy. You could see it.
Yeah.
And he came to a league that was much quicker than Syria.
Yeah.
And I think it was just like a bad...
And wasn't he like 28, 29 when he made that move?
And Jose more or less said he didn't want him.
Yeah.
I think he signed with Jose just before Jonesy left. And Jose did that whole thing of saying, I didn't want him, but he was signed here anyway.
Yeah. And again, if it's a 50% drop-off, I'll take 27 goals a season.
No, I agree. I think you're right. It's it's that buffer. It kind of annoys me a bit that United can't make this happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's going to happen regardless of the way Plettenberg's worded this. And it should.
Yeah.
This is a deal that we should be able to get done. We should be going out this summer, getting Mateus Cunha, getting Gyokeres, and maybe getting Delap as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Why
is that beyond
160 million
Yeah,
quid?
and
Not
we're
bad.
United, for fuck's sake. We're still one of the biggest clubs in the world, even if we're shit. So, you know what I mean? We've still got hundreds of millions of fans globally and 76,000 through the gate every week. Why can't we do this?
You're still more likely to win a trophy playing for us than you are for, I mean, up until now, say Arsenal, or certainly Tottenham or Chelsea in recent seasons as well. I know they won the Champions League, but United still win trophies.
Yeah,
they're still decent.
It's fucking annoying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Any more for any more?
Yes, we've got a couple more. So, Ruben's frankly mastered these transfers, if we're being honest.
Okay, I understand the difficulties you've got with that name and the pun and how you're going to work it in, and I think you've done an admirable job.
Yeah, I think it's admirable. United handed bad news. Oh, great. In bid to land Franco
Sam had a bit of bad news.
Mastantuono as River Plate offer transfer update on 17-year-old star. The 17-year-old sensation is said to be attracting interest from across Europe, with Madrid another of his many suitors. The youngster saw his stock rise even further when he netted a stunning 30-yard free kick for River in the Classico clash. Don't they call it the Super Classico, I believe, with arch rivals Boca Juniors. Mastantuono, will turn 18 in August, at which point he could bid farewell to his homeland. River, however, are adamant that he will see out the calendar year with them. Interesting. Board member Stefano Di Carlo told ESPN Sports Centre, when asked if Mastantuono will remain at the club for the remainder of 2025, yes, that's a certainty already.
Okay, pretty emphatic there.
Yeah.
Obviously saw his goal the other day, amazing.
Yeah. His dribbling and he's an interesting player to look at because he's quite sort of, I don't want to say leggy or gangly by any means, but his dribbling is incredible for a player that isn't that kind of messy build or that kind of low centre of gravity. He's got longer limbs and he's taller and he's more upright with his dribbling. He's really impressive to watch.
Used to go on runs when he was in the academy.
Yeah.
And he looks ungainly, didn't he?
Yeah.
But his control was mint. And he just looks like he just looked weird, like you're saying, seeing a sort of somewhat lanky footballer.
Yep.
Especially when he was 17, 18, surrounded by players that were a lot smaller than him, just having such great control. So I understand your point there, yeah. Obviously, an amazing young talent. If we could get him, great, but they seem determined to keep him. Plus, if other clubs are in for him, Real Madrid, I know we did get Lenny Euro, so you can never count it out. It does feel that United this summer ain't going to be able to go into any bidding wars with anyone else.
Yes.
And we kind of threw enough money at Lenny Euro, didn't we, to put Madrid off. Joshua Bowater says, lads, can you get Mikola to tell Boovy Gorillas don't have tails? So that's 10 extra blokes he can use elsewhere to take it down. Yeah, we're with him tomorrow. I'll pass on that message for you. Thank you for your super chat. I think we've got one more.
Yes, what we got? Jonathan Tar, we'll have him.
What did we say upstairs?
You said something like tar for that, or
tar very much.
Tar very much.
Just a tap in there.
Yeah, I said that pun is going to be tar very much.
Yeah.
But you said Jonathan Tar will have him, which is, very similar. Yeah.
It works.
It works. Manchester United could have a potential centre-back stalwart. Sorry, I don't know why I'm doing your job. I just got carried away.
Go on.
Sorry. Could have a potential centre-back stalwart in their sights.
Yeah, read the tweet.
Manchester United are exploring a deal for Leverkusen's Jonathan Tar. Sky Sports News understands. Interesting.
Happy with
it's
yourself,
interesting now, isn't it? Because when we got Delict, the obvious one of the reasons being touted as why Bayern Munich were willing to get rid of Delict was they had their eyes on Jonathan Tar.
Yeah.
They thought that was going to be a deal they were going to make happen. I don't know how true.
Why
it was.
did that break down?
Well, it didn't happen, but I don't know. It was like that was
like,
what
they're
gathered
going to get
momentum, wasn't
him.
it?
So
They're willing to let Delict go, even though the fans were upset about it, because they're going to get Jonathan Tar, which was a double whammy for them because it takes Leverkusen, one of their best players, off him, and obviously signed for Bayern Munich. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
He stays at Leverkusen, and now it seems Manchester United are in for him. I would love it if we got another centre back in. I think United should be doing this. We should be getting a striker, an attacking midfielder, a centre back, a wing back, a promising youngster. Yeah, but we're not going to. And I don't feel.
I think that weren't the numbers talked about with him something like 12 million to buy him?
I mean,
it was
really
really small numbers.
If that is true.
Yeah, I haven't seen that number mentioned with United. I'm sure it was 15, 13, 12, something like that. Also, looking at these two pictures of him, he looks, I don't know which one was taken first, but he looks about 25 years older in that one. He looks like a 23, 24, 25-year-old guy there. That's a 45-year-old bloke. Look how different he looks.
Yeah.
And that's both recent kits.
Yeah.
What's happened there?
Happens to the best of us, Joe.
It does. He looks older than you, though.
Do you mean he looks older than me?
Well,
Like, it's the worst thing anyone's
Well,
ever
you
said.
are 15, 20 years older than him.
Who looks younger there, me or Jonathan Tarr?
Honestly, you. That's mad. Like, and
You know
then
what
you
they say,
put
the camera never lies.
Put the main graphic full screen. Because look at the picture of him in the Germany kit. He literally looks like a fucking different human being.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I'm not standing up to screening on that
So
one.
hopefully we sign that age,
one,
Jonathan
not his
Tarr.
dad.
Not his dad there that stood in for the picture. But yeah, he's out of contract
Get
in the
him.
summer.
Get him!
Get him.
Freebie! Oh my God, you can imagine Ratcliffe absolutely soiling his trousers.
Yeah, but at the
prospect,
front.
at the front.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having a sneeze, but better.
Yeah, exactly. Doing a little milky wee.
Of the prospects of getting a freebie.
Unbelievable.
Fucking hell. At this rate, you'll be getting Satsumas in the canteen again.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with all the
play
latest Manchester United news. Yeah, I'd love to see Jonathan Tarr at United. Who knows? Perhaps.
Indeed.
Right, we're going to be back tomorrow.
Yep.
We've got the preview out in the morning.
Yep.
It's myself and Joseph, so make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on that one.
Watch along tomorrow
Watch
night.
along. Me, Joe, McCullough. Yes, the dream
Big one.
team for the big one. This is the fucking big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is basically the season.
Yes, man.
So join us for that. That's been Joe Smith. Go and check him out on the Sloppy Joe's podcast. I'm
Thank you.
Jay Motti. This has been Paddock Live. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.